This is Mission Service, sponsored by Barry Law.
Corporal Daegan Page was a 23-year-old Marine from Omaha, Nebraska, a dedicated son, friend, and hero. On August 26, 2021, Daegan was one of 13 U.S. service members who made the ultimate sacrifice in a devastating attack at the Kabul Airport in Afghanistan. His courage and dedication shine as a testament to the service and sacrifice of all who wear the uniform. A graduate of Millard South High School, Daegan was known for his heart, his loyalty, and his unwavering commitment to those he loved. For his bravery, he was posthumously awarded the Purple Heart, a symbol of the sacrifice he gave for his country. This Veterans Day, we honor Daegan's legacy. Join John Barry as he sits down with Wendy Page to remember Daegan's story and the values he lived by, values that inspire all of us to reflect on the true cost of freedom.
Today we're joined by Wendy Adelson, Gold Star mother and one of the founders of the Corporal Daegan Page Foundation. Wendy, it's so great to talk to you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
You've lived the life that I think most parents are afraid to live, which is we want our sons and daughters to live like heroes, but we don't always want to have to deal with the consequences. And yet today, you still do not back away from encouraging America's sons and daughters from joining the military.
We all want our children to be good people, to leave a legacy, to be heroes. We just don't want to walk in these shoes and the way that the heroes of our fallen from our military become heroes and leave those legacies. At the same time, our country needs to remain strong in our military force. Our youth need to have confidence and faith and the drive and the desire to go be a soldier, a Marine, a sailor, an airman, right? And you're right, I won't back down. If people ask me, what do you think about my child joining the military? I think the natural expectation is I'm going to say, oh no. And it's just, that's not my answer. My answer is you need to support your child. Let your child make those decisions if they want to join the military. And then when they do, be there 100% and support them.
And I think you have a great lesson about how to support your children. Daegan was a skateboarder. He had some other interests. And then as he's growing up, he's trying to figure out what he wants to do. And he brings up the fact that he might want to be a Marine.
That's right. He did. So he brought it up early on in life, right? Early on, he went through a series of, I'm going to be a goalie for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm going to be a drummer for a very popular band. Then I might be a plumber and I might be a Marine. And then it kind of went away. That was like elementary. And then it kind of went away. And then it kind of surfaced back up in high school. And then we kind of had one of those heart-to-hearts where I just said, hey, buddy, do me a favor. Give me 1 year. Spend 1 year, work after high school, figure out what you want to do. We laugh. I'm pretty sure he put in his calendar exactly 1 year from that date, because 1 year from that date, he did call a family meeting at 10 o'clock at night when he got off work and said, hey, I'm going over to MEPS tomorrow. I am signing up to be a Marine. I mean, he gave little indicators, and he did take that 1 year to really just think about what he wanted to do. And I had some pretty personal reasons for asking him to do that. And he did it. And 1 year to the minute, I believe he said, all right, it's time. Here we go.
And I love how that support works, right? Because for a lot of us parents, we worry that our kids are going to want to do something that is going to totally waste their lives.
Yep.
And you get to hear that your son has a lot of interests, but one of them is to become a Marine. And as soon as he makes that decision, you support him.
Absolutely. He actually reminded me at the beginning of that family meeting, by the way, I'm over 18 and you can't say no, you can't. And I did laugh at him. And I said, hey, we're not here to say you can't. We're here to support you now on what's this journey going to look like, right? And what can we do for you?
Now, when you found out that he was going to become a Marine, did you have a concern as to what specialty he might choose?
It's funny. Yes, I did. So I did say to Daegan one day as we were leaving MEPS, I said, hey, please not infantry, anything but infantry. And in true Daegan spirit, making his mama happy, for 6 to 9 months, he told me something other than infantry. And then the day he signed to leave to go to San Diego to boot camp, he then had to tell me the truth as he was swearing in that he was going infantry. So, yep, I did have one ask, but it's okay. He chose his path. That was the Daegan way from the day he was born. He chose his path, and I supported him for the whole path.
And as you supported him, you didn't just support him, you supported other Marines and other service members, as many military parents do.
Absolutely.
And now we've come to the part where, the part of your life where you're realizing there is so much more to give back to the military community. And you do that through the Corporal Daegan Page Foundation. You help veterans and their families. So please tell us more about that.
I will say one of the biggest things that was quickly noticeable as soon as we lost Daegan was being surrounded by our community in general, our nation in general. And I talk about that a lot because it was just an outpouring of support from total strangers all over the world. The next thing you notice is that military community kind of circling around you. What do you need? What can we do for you? What can we protect you from? Every little corner you turn, there's someone you've never met, a veteran you've never met. And I still experience that today. It's not uncommon for me to be out at Omaha National having a visit with Daegan, and a veteran is out there. And they just come up and they talk to me, and I guess maybe it's safe space out there for them. And so we learned very easily and very quickly that our military family expanded so far beyond, for me specifically, Marine moms. I'd met several Marine moms. I'm pleased to still call some of them some of my closest friends while our kids were enlisted together, our kids were together and deployed together. But the community is fantastic. The community needs us to support them just like they support us, however. And that is why we started our foundation, to support both our past and present service members, the loved ones of those who are gone too soon, which could be Gold Star families, could be people that, in our instance, right, Daegan's girlfriend doesn't have a DOD designation of a Gold Star family member. They weren't married. And so supporting the families of the fallen and then the communities that surround them. And it's been a very soul-filling, heartwarming journey. We've got a long ways to continue to do good, and I'm very excited what we have coming up. But it really was just seeing the initial outpouring from our military community that said to us, we have to start giving it all back.
And those bonds are still really strong. And I think that
Absolutely.
people who have not served don't quite understand this, or family members who have not had a loved one serve, but you have members of the unit that still come by your house.
We do. We have, most local story is that we have one of the 2-1 Marines that served with Daegan move here. He lives here now. He's got a beautiful family here. Chose when he came out of the service and left Camp Pendleton, went home for a short period of time and called us up one day and said, I think I'm going to move to Omaha. And so he lives here now, and it's fantastic to be able to call him part of our family. Holidays, people will roll in, right? Significant days, Daegan's birthday or August 26th, you never know who's going to knock on the door. And then once a year, we have a large group come in for one of our annual foundation fundraisers, our golf tournament. We get about 30 Marines that show up, 30 Marines and individuals from town that were close friends of Daegan's, and they just roll in the house, fill up the yard, hang out for the evening, and then they spend the weekend golfing and hanging out together. And it's pretty amazing, not just for us, but what you see when people get together who have a common story, a common bond, it can just sit and be together. Just watching them heal one another, I think in essence heals me.
Yeah, what I've noticed with so many of our veterans is, you take away the mission, you take away the team, and life gets pretty difficult. Yeah. And so you've given back by creating this mission that allows veterans to participate with their brothers and sisters toward a purpose of helping their brothers and sisters. And so it becomes one of these great opportunities to not only to reconnect for the sake of reconnecting, but reconnect to give back. And I want to talk about some of those things that the Corporal Daegan Page Foundation is currently doing and doing this year.
We started quick in October-ish of 2021. Officially, we're a 501c3 public charity in June of 22. That all went very fast for us. Truthfully, we were all still probably in a bit of a grief stage and on auto. Spent the first year or so kind of forming and figuring out what we were going to do, all of those kinds of things. And we started doing some nonprofit partnership grants. Today, it's just amazing and heartwarming to say that we have given out over $150,000 of help in that short window of time, both through nonprofit partnerships with organizations like, it could be the Omaha Parks Foundation, into the hockey community. where Daegan also played hockey, big skateboarder, hockey player. Could be over in North Omaha. They'd put in a new skate ramp about a year ago, I think, helping, give some funding for that. So that's kind of the community pieces. And then we've rolled out a lot of veteran help programs. We've partnered with an organization that provides buddy checks in rural Nebraska. There's quite a few buddy checks in the Omaha area. We also do a buddy check a few times a year. We call ours Dayway Days. We try to put a little fun and spin and adventure onto our buddy checks. But there are regular buddy checks in the Omaha area. In the more rural parts of the state, it's a little bit more difficult to get the funding and to organize those buddy checks and have the individuals available to run those buddy checks. So we partner with the local Omaha organization that has reach over there, so we can make sure that those rural communities are getting their buddy checks.
And if you could just tell us what the buddy checks are, right? Because this is beyond just, hey, texting your buddy, hey man, you okay? Is everything going well?
Right.
Tell us what all this encompasses.
Yeah, and I think it varies probably based on the organizations, right? I am aware that there are some Legion groups that do buddy checks. There's VFWs that do buddy checks. Lutheran Family Service, there's a lot of folks that do buddy checks, so it probably varies a bit. But really what it is a safe space to gather together with people where whatever you say and do is fine. You're checking in on one another. Do you need something? Often there will be peer support available on hand. I believe at times there may even be therapists. There may be professionals on hand if you need them. But I really think the core thing with those buddy checks is it's a casual, comfortable environment where you can say whatever you want. You can check in. You can say, I need this. Or you can say, hey, you've been pretty quiet lately, or we haven't heard from you, or, what can we do to help you? And I think that's really the core of it, is it's getting back to that unity, brotherhood, of knowing that you're in a room with people that may be going through like situations in their life, and you can all just be together and have that comfort zone and that buffer zone of being in a safe space and having conversation and forging relationships.
Yeah, and it seems that those relationships become key down the road, because at some point, we always need something from somebody. And then a lot of times it's tough to admit it. So how do you make that outreach to those who don't even know that they need the help or are not willing to ask?
I think that is the key question, right? I think for me personally and for our foundation, it's the more we're in events, at events, networking, those kinds of things. Even things like, I was not very familiar with, for instance, the Lincoln Veterans Parade. Now I am. And now I know folks involved with that, and I know things they're involved in. And so I think a lot of it is networking. I think a lot of it is being able to lend an ear. I am not a professional. I am not a therapist. I am not a trained peer support person. But I can hear and I can listen and I can have some empathy. And your story is different than mine, but maybe I can connect you with someone if I need to. And I think that's part of it. Our foundation is really looking to grow out additional opportunities for connectivity with those peer support groups, more connectivity for the buddy checks, standing up our space just down the road from here over on Mike Fahey. We have a space over there that we're getting ready to turn into a collaborative space where we can just open our doors and tell people, hey, come in. Whether it's some sort of creative therapy, creative healing, we're having this event tonight, come in, everybody is welcome. Or if it's just opening the doors, if we know there's a big event going downtown and, hey, veterans, here's your spot. You need to get out of that crowd for a minute. Come on over. Here we are. Hang out here. This is a safe space, collaborative space, comfortable space.
Yeah, I think the real importance of all this is not just understanding that it exists, but why it exists and why it's so important. And if we look at Afghanistan, and I will say that the shameful withdrawal had a horrific effect on a lot of my fellow service members.
Absolutely.
Because for all the sacrifice, we let it go. And the people they worked with,
yep,
the local Afghans, their brothers and sisters, what we would call the green force, right? Blue force, green force, it was all part of the same team. And so I know that we have a lot of brothers and sisters struggling with that and have a lot of questions.
Yes.
And sometimes when you have questions and you can't get the answers, sometimes it helps to talk. Do you find yourself facilitating those discussions?
I do. And it's usually when I least expect it. I could be having a phone conversation with someone who's just reached out to say, hey, we're doing this XYZ event. Would you like to attend? And somehow that conversation becomes, oh, and by the way, I did 2 tours. I did this. I did that. And this is how I was affected. when I heard about Daegan, when I heard about the 13. And those conversations, I try to always say thank you and mostly just listen, right? I can't solve either, but listening to what the individual has to say to me and how it's impacted them, I guess it's kind of twofold, right? I sit there and I go, okay, this thing has caused this ripple effect to so many people beyond just me, beyond just our family, right? It has rippled across the veterans of multiple generations, multiple conflicts. But at the same time, it has opened up opportunity for folks to have conversations that maybe they were holding in. And if nothing else, I think seeing Daegan's spirit shine through and people talking about it and people knowing that there are organizations doing good because of it, again, that's kind of the soul-filling. That's the soul-filling stuff, is making sure we can turn this into something good, because it was very tragic and it affected so many people beyond just us.
When did the significance of it first hit you? I mean, I have to imagine as a mother, the first thing you're concerned, oh my gosh, like this happens. And then you're starting to learn that how significant this was and how, what happened to Daegan affected the psyche of so many other veterans who were saying this never should have happened on our watch in the United States. And we let this happen. It wasn't, that the horror, I think the greatest horror is of losing a child, but what it did to the rest of everyone who witnessed it. But there was a rally around it. Yep. And so tell us when you knew that was the significance of this.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different kinds of significance probably, right? It's that initial, the first day, and there's media in my front yard. And we'd been notified at 11:47 at night, and there was media in my yard, 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how they knew. We hadn't released a statement yet, but they knew, right? And so you start to see that happen, and then all of a sudden it sinks in. I mean, you'd heard about it all day on the news. 4 Marines, 1 soldier, 11 Marines. I mean, the numbers just kept climbing, and you hear about it all day. And this is a significant event in our history. Still maybe didn't connect that now it's my significant event as well in history, right? So you start seeing that initially. And I think it was the day after we got back from Dover. So it might have been about August 30th or something. And there were occasionally individuals on the sidewalk across the street from our house. And I didn't really understand what was happening over there and kind of probably just not really paying huge attention. And my casualty officer had come over and I said, hey, this is like the 3rd time somebody's been out there across the street on the sidewalk by my neighbor's house. And he explained to me that they were actually veterans and they were outside our house and they were listening to music. And sometimes they just needed to sit there for a little while. That still happens today. There are times people will just walk by our house. They stop, they pause. Sometimes they salute. There's a statue in my yard. There's a salute. And so just seeing that was probably the first thing for me where I realized that this ripple had started. The next time would have been sitting at Omaha National Cemetery, and a Vietnam veteran's wife is buried very close to Daegan. I'd seen him out there many times. I didn't have a lot of conversation with him, and one day he just said to me, ma'am, can we talk? And he started talking to me about how he felt about the situation, how he felt that if my family ever needed protection, if anybody started trying to sully Daegan's reputation, say bad things, he and all these other people were ready and rallied because they weren't going to allow this to be the way they felt, the way they were treated per se. That was another one of those moments of, okay, that's a whole nother generation, right? That's a whole nother generation, a whole nother war, a whole nother conflict, and they're impacted by this. And so I think the ripple is just the full effect of it. I don't think we've seen it yet. I think that it will continue. I think it will quiet down a bit. We won't talk about it quite as much possibly in the media, but I think the mental health effects are yet to fully be seen of the things that happened that day.
Yeah, and I think that we didn't think back to the history of what happened to our Vietnam veterans and how this affects them. And I have a friend who was a refugee from Vietnam. They flew him out. He was, as a child. And then he was one of the individuals who got back, and he was deployed to Afghanistan, but then he went back to help families come back. Yeah. And it was an important mission for him because he's like, I was saved by the United States military, and now, you know, I want to do the same for the people of Afghanistan. And you know, I think that sometimes we forget that our Vietnam veterans felt very similarly about the withdrawal there as well. And it's interesting though how sometimes these tragedies pull us together and bring opportunity to not only to heal, but I think to help other people thrive. And you've done this with military families, veterans, and you continue to do it. And one of the next big events that's coming up is the Lincoln Veterans Parade.
Yes.
So tell us how you got involved with that.
You know, I'm not 100% sure. I am pretty sure I got involved through that networking we were talking about, though. So we do a lot of things with a lot of other partner organizations in the community, and one of those events is an event, Hero Talk. We help sponsor that event. You will help sponsor that event. So we've been at that event. We've gotten to know the organizer of those events pretty well. He gave me a call one day about something unrelated, and he said, "Oh, and by the way, I think Antonio from the Lincoln Veteran Parade Committee is going to give you a call." And he did. And he said, "Hey, you know, we've been having some conversation about needing who the Grand Marshal should be for our parade this year. Here's who we are. Here's what we do. Are you interested?" And I said, "Yeah, I am interested. I'm always interested in making sure that we continue to share the good that we can out of tragedy, and to do the things that we can to support both those who have given the ultimate sacrifice, our veterans, and then the families." And I think that the Lincoln Veterans Parade does all of those things. So I'm pretty excited to be part of it.
Wendy, thank you so much for talking with us about the Corporal Daegan Page Foundation. Where can people learn more about it?
The easiest way to learn more is at daeganpage.org, DAEGANPAGE.org. Lots of information out on our website.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me.